So today I want to talk to you about using the portfolio as a platform to document the learning process. The screen that we're looking at right now is showcasing completed work, but I also think there's huge value in showing the steps and curating the process. I think it makes the learning process more visible to others, and so a student who is struggling uh, with their understanding of how to get their work to a certain standard or how others organize their workflow, there's tremendous value in doing this. And just to give you a few ideas, that's sort of what this post is all about. I thought it would be interesting actually for us to build the post together. So that's what you're going to watch, and I will be embedding different examples that you might want to be thinking about. So I've got my new post here. How can I leverage the process via the portfolio? I am going to be using the Divi Builder. You certainly don't have to use the Divi Builder. What I want to point out is sometimes we have this idea that we have to complete the post all in one lesson, or the reflection has to be done in a certain amount of time. And I actually think that's erroneous. I love to do something called save in draft with my classes, and I think we can add bit by bit before we actually publish. And there's a few different ways I might go about doing that. So I want to point out actually that if I go insert column, I can decide how many columns I want. And so for the sake of this example, I'll just pick one solid row. And when I go insert module, I can select code. Now this is great because if I set up my students or myself to be working from Google Slides, as I update, the code will update and my post updates itself. So what might that look like? It might look like this, where I've set up a series of steps for my students, and they might make a copy of my original Google slide deck and add their work in as they go through completing these steps. Or maybe it looks like this. Maybe it's a set of slides where every day we're dropping something in, and then we're going to come back to these slides, and as it says here, look for the seeds that make their way into the final product. So maybe it's, again, documenting, taking a picture of notes. Maybe it's taking a picture of a few post-it notes, thoughts of others. Maybe it's grabbing an image of what's up on the board, or it's a flow chart, or perhaps it's even a screenshot of something that's up on the OLP or something from a website. Again, this can be added to, and then if I go ahead and I embed the code in my portfolio, it updates as I work. If you're wondering again, how do I generate the code from slides? I'll go through this. I also have a tutorial that looks just specifically at this step if you want to share it with students. So I go to File, and then I would go to Publish to the Web, which is here. I want to select Embed. I have some options here. Medium is fine. I can start the slideshow. I can restart it. If I click Publish, it will ask if I am sure. I say yes. This is the code I need. I copy this. I go back over to my code module, paste that in. I can save, exit, and if I click Preview, you'll notice that in my post, the Google Slides are now going to be live. So if I'm adding something from class each day, I don't have to do that step all over again. As I add to the Google Slides themselves, it's going to be updated. Okay, if I go back to my post, if there are multiple steps in my process that I want to document, perhaps this is an assessment task that's lasting well over the course of the month, I might want to look at using what's called the toggle module. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to insert instead toggle. And I can give this a title. So for this, maybe it's my ATL reflections. And I can also add slides here. Now, instead of using the code module, all I would need to do is select the text tab And this is where I can add in code, just like I did before. So I've created, and again, all of the links are in this post. I've created, I think, an easy to use template. If you just wanted to spend 3 minutes in each lesson, just doing a quick ATL check-in, like I find this is really useful if you're doing any group work. You can give them this 3-minute check-in and they can add slides to it. So what I would do is I would give my class the link to the slides, they make a copy, and then I say, okay, for each lesson, this is going to be the last thing that we do in each lesson. I'll make sure that you've got a few minutes to come to these slides and pick one item that you're going to add to. So they wouldn't have time to do self-management, communication, and collaboration, but I'd say, come to the slides, pick one, and it might not even be all of the prompts, it might be pick one prompt. So if I've come here as a student and I want to discuss my ability to collaborate with others during this lesson, I might choose where was an opportunity to encourage someone else. Did I take it? Why or why didn't I? I'd fill that in. Or maybe I would just have time to respond to, was there an opportunity for me to make a contribution either in person or digitally? And how did I use that opportunity? So 3 minutes, I would just copy this slide, paste it, and I would just add to this text. Maybe I would add the date here. Alternatively, what I could ask students to do, I think sometimes we have this idea that you need to ask someone to be your mentor, but I think also it's about putting that ownership on ourselves to, as it says here, notice mentorship in motion. So maybe over the course of a month, I would, again, just at the end of the lesson, say, go here, notice mentorship in motion. So pick somebody that you are noticing they're doing something that you want to be able to do or you want to improve on. So add their name, maybe add their picture here, up to you, maybe not. So what's a question you should ask that person? When is a moment that you should touch base with them? And what are some other connections? So if I'm a student, maybe I'm noticing that I have a peer who's really great when it comes to interpersonal relationships. And maybe actually I know that that's important for my service group as well. So maybe I'm going to go ahead and type in, I notice the way that they ask questions is really useful and I want to connect that to BIA or to MUN. And so again, this I think is another great way of, instead of always saying, reflect on your use of ATLs, maybe also notice how others are using them. Okay, so I'm going to go through the same step of file, publish to the web, embed, yes, I'm sure. I get the code, I come back over here to my post, I paste that in, I click save and exit. Now the great thing with using Toggle is I'm going to go ahead and customize this one. So when I come over to design, this is when I can do some really fun things. So closed toggle background color. I'm going to make this blue, which means I want to make sure that my closed toggle color is light so that it's easy to read on top of the blue. I can have my open toggle background color be whatever I'd like. I'm going to choose bright yellow. I will save and exit. And now that I've actually gone through those steps of customizing that module, I can click this button right here to copy it. And maybe there are 4 different specific things that I'm going to ask my students to document over the course of time. So maybe, again, that first one is looking at ATLs. Maybe this middle one here is going to be gathering ideas. And so that might be my note slides. So I'll add that in, I'll save and exit. And I just want to give you quickly an idea of what this looks like. So if I click preview, I can now see what this looks like. So here is my ATL reflection is behind here. And so I could cycle through that. My gathering ideas, those slides are here. So again, I can continue to add to the slides here and they will automatically be updated over here, which is, I think, pretty good. So now when it comes time to actually having real information that I can do my final reflection with, I can go back and all of my work is in one place. This is going to be, I think, much easier for me to share with my teacher, for them to see again what my progress has looked at like, and maybe more importantly, this is a wonderful resource now for me to share with my peers, or for the teacher to facilitate that cross-class sharing. So students are getting a sense of how different students go about formulating ideas, what it is that they're thinking about when they're thinking about the ATLs. Now, one other thing I want to point out, right now I'm actually making this video with Screencastify, which is a Google Chrome plugin. So maybe this toggle here, when I am done with all of my work, maybe what I would then do is actually, I could record, like I'm recording my screen right now, and I could speak to what's here and how that made a difference when it came time to turning in my final work. So this is why if I gave this slide template to students, I would have them go back through, maybe these are all the notes from across the unit, and I would say, okay, now as I look at this, I would say this served as a seed for my final idea because I could speak to that, and then I would embed that video here. Again, I think leveraging the transparency of the learning process by doing something like this is really valuable for other students. And I think it's very valuable for you as the teacher to be able to see how your students are getting to where they're going. And it's just a matter of setting up a few protocols in place. So if you're interested in doing something like this, and you're not quite sure how, please just book a meeting with me. I'm happy to take you through it, or I'm happy to I'm happy also to come into the class and help you facilitate structuring something like this. You might also want to consider not just using this in an academic setting, but also in a service learning setting. So if I think about my drumming service, I also might want to document their thinking and think about other senses. So we've documented what the drum therapy service actually sounds like. So if I click that, it's going to give you a few sounds, but I've used that toggle module here to also give others a look at our service at a glance. So there's a variety of activities that we do in each and every one of our drumming therapy meetings. And so as I click over these, it's going to open up to a video where I've got students explaining what that's all about. I also have a video down here where students are talking through what it takes to successfully facilitate drum therapy. So also just again, thinking about process as it applies to activities and service, the portfolio can really leverage our awareness and our understanding of what process actually looks like in a variety of contexts. Okay, this was a slightly longer tutorial, so if you are still there, I thank you so much for giving up your time to watch. Thank you.